Ready? Wait, yeah, doctor. I need to wait for the cue. Okay. So, good afternoon to everyone who are joining us today. Welcome to all school students, teachers, parents, and from all around Malaysia. Not to forget UMS students and staffs present in the session today. Thank you, and we meet again for another session of STEM Speaker Series. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Marla Iveta, a fourth-year student from the Faculty of Psychology and Education, taking the course Teaching English as a Second Language, TESOL, and I will be your moderator for today. So for those who are joining us for the first time, this STEM Speaker Series is a co-joint effort with the Institute of Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah, aim to deliver unique and interesting STEM topics. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box of this YouTube live session. Please be informed that for today's session, a certificate will be given to all participants. Everyone must fill in the form through a QR code, which will be shared at the end of the program today. So please stay with us until the end. So with us today is a distinguished academician from the Institute of Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah. So Dr. Jaya Seelan, anak lelaki Sathiya, is a senior lecturer and enthusiast researcher at the Institute of Tropical Biology and Conservation. He has received his PhD in molecular mycology and pathology from Clark University, Boston, USA. Aside from that, he is also a research professor in Seoul National University, Korea. He has 15 years experience working in mushroom diversity, phylogenetics and evolution, fungal metagenomic, fungal biotechnology, which was published in local and international journal with high index. Other than that, he had also won few awards, which are the Anugerah Cemerlang Award in 2010 and 2020, the Whitley International Research Award in 2015 and 2016, the International Association for Plant Taxonomy Award in 2015, and the JICA Training Fellowship Award in 2016 and 2017. So without further ado, let us give a warm welcome to Dr. Jaya with his interesting topic, Bornean Mushroom, Educational Tools for Children. So Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marla. Okay, hi everyone. So you can call me just Jaya, Seelan. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to arrange this STEM speaker series as part of the STEM program at the Science University Malaysia Sabah. I'm delighted to share some of the knowledge that I've gained for the past 15 years in a way of like for a layman concept. Like, I don't want to talk about DNA, I don't want to talk about phylogeny, evolution. So it's like too hardcore biology. So in this talk, I'm going to talk about the simple manner of scientific communication for children, and also for the parents, and also for the teachers, and also for the local people around Malaysia and international. So for the beginning, okay, I would like to start with a quote by Einstein. The important thing is never to stop questioning. So of course, we are in the science field, or whether it's in any type of field, okay, even in social, technology, or engineering. Okay, the questioning is always an aspect for any children to ask parents or teachers while they are growing and curiosity is increasing. So this is something that we are born with it and we are living with it, and also we are furthering that as a curiosity to answer many questions in terms of academia or even. Okay, so today my talk will be covering the beauty of local mushrooms because all this while we have know that many mushrooms that we are talking since like 2020s. Okay, it's all, mostly mushrooms that European, North American distributed mushrooms like the red color mushrooms, which is the American muscaria. Okay, those are the mushrooms are not available in Malaysia. Okay, but they do have some of the related members of that particular family still available. So today we are going to discuss more on the educational way of how to deliver the scientific research that we have as a scientist we have done to deliver that knowledge in a simple manner to the public people. Okay, so without further delay, okay, I would like to start with the science as a background. Since this is a new science and STEM program, science, technology, engineering, so I think the knowledge-wise, we know the body of knowledge in science already have been discovered, but new knowledge is always creating and also generated many people in the field of science and technology. So when you have this already discovered knowledge and observation and experimenting, testing and hypothesizing the new knowledge, you both of these knowledge are a process we call interdependent. So usually these are the interdependent variables when you are investigating it on your own observation, experimenting it, testing it, hypothesizing your results from any experiment. So for this, you must ask a question. You must have a reason, why do you want to do this research? So definitely there will be a question. And for that particular question, you need reliable methods to address what type of methods that you want to employ in research. So these are the things that involve scientific research and scientific field so far. Okay, and early discovery leads to more questions. Like, for example, if you are in the forest and when you see a system or ecosystem or even organisms, you will be asking why the habitat is so confined to that particular species. So those are the questions that you will be raising and learning when you are experimenting it ecologically, when theoretically, when experimenting. Okay, so the next one for the talk today, usually I think my talk will be basically the hardcore biology, which this talk will be targeting more audience like primary school students, secondary school students, even local people and the teachers and the parents. Okay? Because parents and teachers usually they need to answer the kids' question, why the mushroom looks so colorful. Okay. Of course, they won't be knowing without having any detailed information on the local mushrooms that they see in the forest. So once you stop learning, you start dying. So this is what Albert Einstein has stated here. So throughout the scientific experiment journey, the scientific journey, where when you want to lead something or the niche area that you want to explore, you need to have all these qualities where the lifelong learning starts when you're exposed to any new information. Where when I teach my students, for me, the lifelong learning is the most important part, where I do not want them to forget what they have learned in the past. So the lifelong learning, it has to be fun, interactive, also in a manner of sustain knowledge for a longer term. So in our education system, this is a very important criteria where all the schools, and the primary school, or whether it's a secondary school, even in the universities, we are focusing on the lifelong learning and not by just memorizing all the facts. Okay, and then these are the quality, creativity, innovative that we could apply in the science field when you are exploring a system or even in organisms, any kind of system that you are going to work. So as for the introduction, as we all know that there was a huge field called the microbes. Microbes is the study of organisms, microorganisms. So the study of biology involving all the microorganisms is well categorized by each field. Now, under the same roof of microbiology, we do have bacteriology, which is specifying bacteria studies, and then virology, viral studies, and fungi we call the mycology, where the mycology comprises either academia or industrial or even in the medicinal applications. So those who are working with mycology related researchers, they are called as mycologists. Okay, mycologists is basically they had to know what are the taxonomy. Taxonomy means the classification of the fungi, the system of the fungi, and the naming, and also the proper naming, the accurate identification is all done by mycologists. So these are the important criteria of job for a mycologist. Okay, later we will know what are the roles of mycologists that have been done. So they are going to continue serve for you all to deliver the messages and also the knowledge. And the protozoan and algae and archaea, these are all now different entities from the microbiology, but still they are all under the same roof, okay, as a microbiology. But when the specification of the study done on fungi, then that's we call mycology. That's the different field. So that's what I have ventured in for the past 15 years, where I started with the PhD. So it's all about mushroom and called fungi. Yeah? Actually, fungi is in general form. Mushroom is one of the part of the fungi. So how to characterize? Why do I say fungi or mushroom? So let's look into that. Okay. So as you can see, these are the diverse group of shapes and the colors that that we have all these mushrooms in Sabah. Okay, not only in Sabah but even in the peninsula or even in the Sarawak region, and also the Kalimantan region. So the Borneo comprises higher diversity of mushrooms because the rainforest. Okay, because we are considered as a hotspot biodiversity area. So a lot of trees, a lot of debris and dead wood. Also, there are a lot of leaf litters that encourage or promotes a lot of mycorrhizal growth, and also a lot of fungus that attacking, like for example, oil palm plantation. It's another fungus that attacking the oil palm plantation, causing a lot of economic loss. So these are the type of mushrooms or fungi that we know generally, but today I'm going to bring you all into a specific groups, and also at least before you leave the room, at least you get to know one or two species or genus that you will find out that it's most fascinating. So in for the general view of mycological studies in Asia, especially in Borneo, it started with John Henry Connor. Professor John Henry Connor is the only person where the first person to study number of fungi or the mushrooms in Borneo, especially in Sabah. Okay, so he was the first person who studied mycological research in 1960 to 1964 in British exploration. So after that, we do have tentative people that have looked into a very general characteristic fungi such as the wood decay, some edible mushroom. But there are all the information sporadic. Okay? All the information are very scattered, and there is no documentation in each groups like how we do have for European and North American fungi. So why do we need to conserve some of these mushrooms? Because some of the mushrooms can be extinct and also can be disappear from Earth. Why? Because of the major problems like deforestation, illegal logging, urban area development, and also the most interesting part is the oil palm plantation as well. So as you can see from the map, okay, from the 1950s until 2020, you can see the depletion of the forest size, but still Sabah and Sarawak, the Bornean region, the HOB, part of Borneo comprises quite a number of forest sites. So we are happy that we're still saving all these forests for our next generation, and also especially for the mushrooms also, because some of the mushrooms are now proposed to IUCN for the threatening, where some of these are losing their host species, and some of the records has been done for mushrooms, especially in European countries and also North America. But for Malaysia, we are slowly doing with the help of other mycologists around the country. So for interesting talk about fungi and the facts. Okay, today I'm going to generally talk about how do we pronounce it. Okay, definitely in Malay called pula. Okay, in Mandarin, you have the Mandarin writing there. So those who are the Chinese audience, you all can know that why is it pronounced as a Chala. Okay, and Punjay is in Tamil, which is my native language as well. And Fungi is actually a general term for fungi, which includes more and mushrooms. So you must remember that. So fungi, as in general, it comprises all the diverse groups of mushrooms or molds or even yeast, everything. Okay, so the fungus is a singular term and the fungi is a plural term. So when you can see from here, the moss, as you can see, a very beautiful color like cottony, powdery, and also they excretes some type of vegetation over here. It's a liquid. And these are under the microscope. As you can see, they are very beautiful, like a flower. And they also can produce like cottony kind of colony, which are all these you can find also in bread as well. Okay, the bread that you eat every day, sometimes if you left over, you can see either it's a grain or black or yellow or gray kind of a cornelian type. So these are the molds group that you can't be able to see the whole structure because fungi, that term as a fungi is a microscopic one and you cannot see by naked eye is called molds. Okay, but there are fruit bodies. What is a fruit bodies? Later, I will explain each of the terminologies so that you are familiar with those and able to use using the naked eye. So these are the mushrooms that you eat every day in your daily life, where from the market, supermarket, you can find all these button mushroom, you have oyster mushroom, you have other polypod, maitake, shiitake, in shimeji, all these Japanese from imported from Japanese country, all these mushrooms are available as a, we call it a mushroom because they have the fruit body. Okay, what is a fruit body? Later I will explain to you. And they are all under eukaryotic organisms, and they are not phototrophic, they are heterotrophic. What is the heterotrophic? Heterotrophic means the keyword is absorption organic matters. So they absorb all the nutrients from the any types of host that they are or substrate that they are depending on. And they reproduces by millions of cells. So it's like one single entity of this particular group. They can produce thousands of cells, millions of cells. Even like you see, if you see in the mushroom, you can see here these parts contains a lot of spores. So they are easy to spread out by dispersing by the wind, animal, human. So this is how they strive in the environment as well by releasing the spores and then create the substrate and then grow back in as a protein. Okay, and also they are made of chitin, not cellulose. So later we will find out why this is so important to categorize them as close to animal and not plant. Okay, so when we do the research, okay, when we do the research, we have identified lots of groups of mushrooms. Okay, so but you see, when you are delivering the knowledge of these local mushrooms, especially the Bornean mushrooms, I have to manipulate a bit of these facts in terms of how to give them simple manner, like a simple language. How can I teach them in a simple language? So that's the most important thing and challenging part for me, and also for children's by visual and the colors. So you have kind of shapes that will attract their mind, and also it's a stimuli for them to identify. Oh, this is the color. Okay, I know this mushroom. Okay, so they can actually identify some of the groups basically, like how in the US they are doing R2 K2 program for all the kids in the school. Okay, so mushrooms how can we visual aids for teaching and learning. So this is the way of how we have to interact with the children, or even how the teachers can create such an environment for these children to know more about our local mushrooms instead of all the imported mushrooms, which is very common. Okay, so identifying a local mushrooms and to get to know their life cycle and how they grow, where they grow, and what type of things that we have in our Bornean diet, I mean the forest ecosystem. That's very important to teach among the kids or children's school children. So here, as you can see from here, the kingdom of fungi. Why do I say a kingdom of fungi? Later we will see a very interesting story both on how they are, they're segregated from the plants. So what is a fungus? Okay, it's a living thing and with a lot of images, very simple images. When we deliver this macroscopic organism with the observed and the naked eye, but with the microscopic, they only can be viewed under microscopic. So these are the things that can deliver in such way how to attract the children, and also to easily they can understand what are the points that we are trying to deliver. So sometimes not only the information has been, all the research facts has been summarized in the form of, in a picture form, even in an artistic form over here, to educate them at the final one, like, to have like a quiz, or to have like all the terminologies, the simple terminologies that can be delivered to these children. So for the kids, and even the teachers and parents can learn all the simple things from this type of infographics. So the educational tools that we are using to educate how important is mushrooms of Borneo or even Malaysia. Because we have a Malaysian forest, we have a quite number of different kind of tropical mushrooms, which do not available in northern countries, like North America and also in European countries. But we are having a lot of diverse group of mushrooms that are close to Australia as well. So you have to remember is by geographically we are like we have attached once upon a time. So that's why some of the mushrooms that are available here we can find also in Australia, and also from Australia we can also find some of the interesting group in Borneo forest ecosystem. And the nutritional mode, I will explain more in a very simple term, how the terms of this nutritional mode in fungi works as a ectomycorrhizal, as a mutualistic or symbiotic, is it a parasitic, or is it a saprophytic or generalist? Okay, some fungi, they switch the mode of the nutrition as part of the evolution. Some part, they adaptation, and also some fungi, when they are lacking of any types of nutrients, they're changing their mode behavior as a nutritional to absorb whatever they have. So they have to change their nutritional mode to into another. But it will take, the evolution takes time, right? So they cannot change just within one day. But we can see that those evidences in ancestral, from the ancestral, where the current species that we can connect back to the ancestral way and to see how these nutritional mode changes. Okay, these are the kind of interesting knowledge that we gain from the experimental, but how we are going to deliver to the public. So these are the type of work that we are doing, and this is has been a very interesting point of view among the children, because we have a lot of response from these children, and when they are trying to say that puffball, so that means they can identify what is a puffball. Puffball means they are very round, and then they can release the spores when you squeeze them, something like that. So the message and the learning capability of that particular unit has been achieved when we try among the children during our environmental education programs. So in such way, when we are delivering all these cartoon ways, infographic ways of telling the mushrooms, they are very interesting and do not eat. Sometimes some people, they don't know that some mushrooms are, it's edible, some mushrooms are not edible. So how we can give the awareness? So we have to, give in a simple way of graphic, like example, like grape. So if you see when there is a mole, you can't eat because it can cause some diarrhea or anything. Because it depends on the individuality as well. Because sometimes it gives you reaction, sometimes it won't. So these are the things that that you can accumulate all these information into a simple form to deliver your messages to the public. So some of the fungi facts, how we are delivering the top fungal facts. Okay, so the people who studying this fungus, we're calling them as a mycologists. Some fungi is edible, some are poisonous. So this is the way of how we are making children to be attracted to the color in the form of the forms of the points where we are giving the translation of the scientific research into the normal communication. Okay? And also they have to know some of the parts of the mushrooms in a very simple way. So whether they are, but definitely this is a kind of a detailed view of the mushroom parts, but how far they can understand. So actually these are the things that we should implement for our kids apart from our, the school syllabus and everything, because this is something that even in the US, you see they implemented K2 program, K12 program, where the science and the technology STEM is part of the K12 program, where they know what are the bacteria is, what are the fungi is at the age of 6 and 7. So this is something that we all have to develop together to have more, knowledge-based education for all kids. So when you talk about fungi, of course, you can't forget the terms like hypha. Okay, the hypha is a thin, transparent filament that travels along the way. Like, they can crazily, they can travel. Like, for example, Armillaria. Okay, Armillaria is a field fungi that is found in Europe, Northern America. And we do also have Armillaria as well here in Malaysia. But these Armillaria can travel more than like 1,000 kilometers per square. Like, they can travel under the ground. So there was one of the news was highlighted science when they have done this Armillaria research where they can travel furthest, the largest fungal, and they obtain I think World Guinness record. So you can Google and check it out on this Armillaria, because Armillaria can travel so further under the ground. Okay, when you see they also forms the form rings, ring kind of things like normal grass carpets. Okay, and hyphae means is the web. Okay, that's why they call the World Wide Web is a www.com all these. But even in a fungus, you have this web. We call this hyphae. So the hyphae means the web. Okay, so the web is actually single entity where the composed of hyphae we call mycelium. The hyphae we call mycelium. It's a composed of all the hyphae, and many hyphae becomes the mycelium, which is like many. Okay, and how does these hyphae makes the fruiting body? This is the fruiting body that you see. Actually, what you see in the field, in the forest, is the fruiting body is made of all these hyphae. But the entity of the composed of hyphae, all of these are coiled together and then they forming the fruiting body. We call the mycelium, which is the network of the hyphae. So this is the most interesting basic characteristic of a mushroom that we all need to know as a beginner. Okay, then this is adapted from the the classic mycologist work where they have this is like the truffles, and then they have a subterranean fungi, above ground fungi, and they have so many shapes. You see, for example, if I talk about puffballs, they are categorized as the gastromyces because they all have the spores inside this puffball. And then once the raindrop or even wind. So after the maturity, okay, they release the spore by by wind or anything because they are easily. But these are all enclosed spores in a fungus that called gastromyces. Okay, sometimes you can also find these type of shapes in any of the products. Okay, and the most common thing is the gill mushroom. Sometimes they have the bolets, which are the tubes form, which are all looks like very four shapes. Okay, and you also have coral kind of mushrooms or the club fungi. These are the kind. And sometimes you also will find many different types of polypores, which are the bracket fungi. And then last one is the ascomycete, which are the cup fungi and plus fungi, which I will show you the real fungus from our research all this while for the past 15 years, and you will see how fascinating these groups are. Okay, so as you can see how the fungus forms, so the fruit bodies that you see, it's not the fungus, the actual fungus, because you know why? It's all made of a fungal mycelium. So the whole fruiting body is composed of mycelium. Okay, and the parts like caps, gills, spores. So the spores are released from the caps. Okay, this is for the gill mushroom, which sometimes you can try it, at home, where when you plug them and then you put it on a paper, then you can see like a kind of very beautiful flower type of spore plate. So these are the things that you can educate your children like by picking, but don't pick the wrong ones, but you can consult with the mycologist, to educate the children. Or you just use the commercial mushrooms for you to see the spore print, because any of the oyster mushroom that you put in a black paper, you can see a beautiful flower-like spore print. Okay. So now when we come to nutritional mode of fungi, as you can see here, the nutritional mode is the most important thing is the mutualistic or symbiotic. Okay, you see when mutualistic or symbiotic, both party gets benefit. So both parties when they get benefit, so that means either way, when the photosynthesis is done by the tree, okay, the leaves, and then it transports to the root, and then the root will be in the root, the fungus will be having the hyphal structure like how they look like here. Okay, they invade over there and then they exchange the nutrients over there. Then they get the benefit from the tree, and the tree will get benefits when the fungus excretes and also secretes all the important enzymes to break down all the large molecules to small molecules, and then it's absorbed through the root system for the plant. So these are the system that applies to the plants and all the type of plants, especially the Dipterocarp forest. Dipterocarp forest has been proven that highly successional of all these fruiting bodies along the trees, Dipterocarp trees. Okay, so that is one system, and the other system is the saprophytic, which are the all the dead materials. Like the fungus can invade on any dead materials like dead logs, twigs, leaf litters, branches, everything. So they invade, uh, they excrete the enzymes to obtain the carbon and nitrogen. So the carbon and nitrogen, they are the cellulose degraders enzymes. So these are contains highly rich. When you are talking about white rot and brown rot, they are the perfect candidates for a lot of enzyme studies for industrial purposes. And mutualistic also or symbiotic can occur also in insects or animals. Okay, as you can see from the termite now. Okay, the termite, the ants, the termites gets benefit from the fungus, and the fungus in return gives the benefit to the termite. So this is a kind of a very important symbiotic association. Like for example, when you have a good friends, of course they help you, but when you have a bad friend, definitely they will trip you. So that means you have a good and a bad one. So this is how the system works also in nature. And especially for the parasitic groups, okay? For example, we call them as a zombie fungi, which I will talk later more, where the interaction of the fungus between the other organisms, it's called the parasitic or mutualistic. But the parasitic, only one host will get benefit, which is the fungus will get benefit because the insect will die. Because the fungus, they attack the central nervous system of the ants, and then the behavioral changes, and then the ants die, and then after 3 days, the stroma will come out from the ants, or even moths, okay, caterpillar, young limbs of cicada, also kind of wasp. Okay, so these are the nutritional mode of the fungi in nature that we can see very clearly every day. Okay, when you are in the forest, you will see more actually because you are in the primary forest. When secondary forest, you will see a different ecosystem. So the kind of things it works based on the habitat, based on the type of forest. It's also based on the fungus that grows in the area. Okay, so there are many different connectivity that you should link in how to master the knowledge within this fungus. Okay? So when we all got the information from the scientific way, okay, by evidently with all the scientific facts, so we thought of how to deliver this for kids, especially from the early education and also for the kids, primary school, so the secondary school, even secondary school or even adults. Sometimes they don't know whether it's a plant or animal. So to make it simple, we have a storyboard where deliver kind of a symbol. It is symbolic. Like for example, in Japan, you see aspergillus has become iconic fungi model, like cartoon base. So why not recreate one? So this is how it evolved, and we created very cute. And me and my student Rivisa, and we did this together actually. When she's a very good artist, So the prototypes was very interesting when we transformed these into a book, and it makes sense. Like now, students all we experimented with the kids and they get a lot of good response where they know now that it's not from plantain because it's plant contains cellulose, but animal, which is the insects on chitin, which are closely related to fungi, which is also from the forms of chitin as well. So this is the fun way of how we are implementing the research story into the academic idea, like teaching and learning for children education. So this is the kind of way how we have to imply the fusion between the teachers, researchers, and also the researchers between the public, how to communicate in a simple. So this is one of the form of very interesting that you can see how the colorful cartoons and the information is delivered to educate them in a simple way. Okay, so this is one of the success project that we have finished 3 years back, and this is going to be out soon. And this is how we have used all these elements in the classroom and then to the public. So now we move on to the types of edible mushrooms of home. Okay, have we all seen any kind of mushrooms made during the hiking and everything, but you are not sure whether it's edible, whether it's toxic. You have no clue. Sometimes some people they try to pick it up and then they want to try them. Okay, I recommend not to do that because sometimes you never know how your body system is. Okay, so sometimes you are lucky, sometimes it can be unlucky. So we don't encourage anyone to eat any edible ones forest system because in the forest you never know that sometimes with the host or the accumulation of any heavy metals around the area. So we have no idea. Even though it's edible, they can accumulate because there are a lot of evidence of fungus that can accumulate toxic materials, so heavy metals and stuff. Okay. So these are the examples of the wild edible mushrooms like for example, the A and the B over here. This is very famous in Kuching, Sarawak, where they tend to eat this, where they put in the water and then they just eat. So this is one of the delicacy for Sarawak, but I'm not sure with Spanish filler, but they know that this is like pulat mata kerbau, pulat mata kandung. So because they look like the eyes of kerbau, okay? Huh? And sometimes you also find some of the unusual groups like agaricus and stuff like here, Pilerotus, and shiitake. This is the local shiitake from Sabah. And sometimes you can also find this Wolveriella, which is the fairy straw mushroom. And many people, they don't know that this Cantharellus is edible. So these are the source of, edible source that we have. Okay, it's not that we do not have in our Malaysia. Actually, we all do have a lot of tropical mushroom, but we are not sure whether it's edible. So based on experience and based on the experts groups, discussions and everything, then we verify those edibility on. And then you have so many colorful, colors stimuli the brain, of the children, because when you present colorful objects or any kind of things, they are attracted to it. So it's one of the way how we promote the teaching and the learning tools for these kids and children. So in this way, some of these here it's for the how diverse is our mushrooms of Borneo or even Malaysia, that from a different habitats over here. As you can see here, sometimes you can find in the highlands, sometimes you can find in the very lowland forest, sometimes in the higher land forest. So these are all edible here. These are all edible except for this one. These are just for the colors, and some of them are not edible. Yeah. And then you see a big mushroom over here. So you see how far they can go. So sometimes based on the substrate, soil, condition of the place where they go, it can reach quite big like bolids and oyster. Okay, the wild one. So this is one of the wild one from the volcanic soil kind of thing, and they can grow stand towards like your height. Okay, and they are delicious. Some of them, these are collected from oil park areas nearby in Sabah, and they sell it in the local market over here. So, and sometimes we never know how many types are very actually the edible mushrooms. So these are the list of some of them from my research where we do have our local areas. So these are the findings that I'm educating children and also others to collaborate and to make more benefit out of these programs. So like for example, as all the hikers today, I think mostly some of you all listening to this, when you see this is the common mushroom that you will see anywhere on the dead logs or dead tree, everywhere. So this mushroom is actually a lot of synonyms, 136 synonyms mean it's like too many names for one particular species. So they come up with lots of variation. It's just morphological variation, but genetically they are similar. Okay, they are all species. We call this Lanthimos. They are edible. And then from Borneo extend to Amazon, so we have all these world related fungus that some of these tropical fungus can be found also in Amazon. So it's amazing how this can be also microhabitat for frogs, little frogs, even for insects as well. So these are the things that in the forest that you can see how beauty they are, and these has to be documented. So we as mycologists, we do document all these mushrooms for scientific purposes, so to educate children and the public. And how many of you all know that the existence of Cantharellus in Malaysia? So as you can see, very huge varieties in Northern America. People celebrate this when they found these canterelles in Northern America. They just hunt for many because it's a monoculture forest. They tend to have higher distribution in the pine forest, and also oak trees and stuff like that. But in Malaysia, it's very limited when it talks about the host tree. Okay, they are very limited, but sometimes you can get more than 5 fruiting bodies. Sometimes you get only 1 or 2 fruiting bodies. So this takes a long time to sample, but we did manage to sample some of the very important aspects, like more than 3. So because for a study in for taxonomy, you need at least more than 3 fruiting bodies for you to keep for DNA, so for your microscopic, so for herbarium. So these are the things that we do. And these wonders of canterelles, they're all edible except for certain species within that 1 or 2 are not edible. Okay. And then what we do next? Okay. So when we do have the fungus, okay, why do we want to collect more and more in the same place? What we do, okay, we do culture, tissue culture method, okay, where we grow them in the lab, successfully isolate them, and then take the pure culture, and then this will be subjected for cultivation. Okay, so these are the things that what we call the from forest to table, where the culture collections are very important. Many types of fungal studies. Okay, culture collection, you try first. If you cannot get it, then it's okay, fine. But most of the time, you try culture collection. Whether it succeeds in the field or in the lab, it depends on your study. Okay, but it will be very great benefit if you can culture them, store them as part of the culture collection, so that anytime the other generation they can study on that particular mushrooming, they can refer back. Okay, so this is one of the conservation kind of thing. Also, it contributes to conservation because you don't go and destroy the same species for over and over. You over harvest it and then it disappear. Like for example, in Tibetan, all the caterpillar, the Tibetan caterpillar, the cordyceps. So you see, now it can be cultivated. So people are more towards the cultivated ones. Okay? They don't go for wild one that often. Okay, so it's one of the way of how we want to conserve particular species. Okay, so this is one of the form of edible mushroom that we grow in our lab. Okay, we use agro waste. Okay, and this is part of also with collaboration, and also we did a lot of what do you call this? Sorry, we call them as a medicinal mushroom as well, because it contains a lot of medicinal compounds as well, and they have been thoroughly studied for review paper and everything after all the studies done by the group, and then we isolated the Sabah, the Bornean version of the strain, and then they are quite aggressive, as you can see from the wild source. This one is just from the wild one, okay, where you have to tame them. It takes a lot of process, okay. But once you have them in like growing, so happy to see how they're growing. The growing morphologically that you can view them in the laboratory condition every day. So that's why sometimes people who study evolutionary development, they need to know from the start of the culture until a lot of except which gene encodes that gene, things like that will be very detailed. So I'm not going to too much detail on that, but you have to know that mushrooms, if it's saprophytic, easy to cultivate, but if it is an ectomycorrhizal, which is a symbiosis towards adipose, some are very difficult. Some nowadays with all the technologies, we can actually cultivate them. So for example, in the laboratory condition, when we grow them, it's successful. So what about the demo plot? So that means what about the environmental that we can use them, grow in soil, or even in any kind of bedding method. So we tried this into a soil ready, and you can also, use this kind of things for your, commercial mushrooms for this kind of purpose, where that commercial mushroom is edible, so it's easy to do in plant, and then you can get some kind of mature mushrooms like this. Okay, like how you all doing the bags full of spawn bags, and then you spray with water, and then you get the fungus, right? So the mushroom sprouts out, and then you eat them. So that's how the kind of work can be done for our local mushrooms. So how many of you all know that the oyster family that you all eating every day, they are also considered as a carnivorous mushroom? Why I'm calling about, naming them carnivorous? Okay, why do I say carnivorous? Because mushrooms generally they utilize carbon and nitrogen. Okay, mostly the carbon. They need carbon for them to, absorb and then to grow them. Okay. However, when they are lack of this nitrogen, especially nitrogen, they turn into a predatory fungus, where they fall as a carnivores because they utilizes any kind of nematodes. So they are growing in anywhere in the soil. Okay, they can actually eat, or how to say, they can kill the nematodes. But in the group that I'm working with, the local mushroom called the Bunsul, it contains a very interesting nematode trapping activity, as you can see from the video. Okay, so these nematodes, okay, has been studied in the African cultures, like the sclerotium, and also that species that Africa has similar one, but now we have to rename them. So because Africa is a recent, so they have to change the name of this species. But Asia one still retain the same, because the first mushroom, the Perotus pivarium, which is the oyster, one of the oyster species, is found in Ambon, Indonesia. Huh? So as you can see, they contains a toxin droplets in all these hyphae here. So once they touches the toxin droplets, they paralyze the nematode, and then the nematode dies. So after that, after the nematode dies, then only the fungus rises. That's how they get the nutrients, and also they get the benefit of eating them. And then actually the nematode, when they die, you see a lot of mycelium founding. So in this case, not paralyzed, it's immobilized. Very, very interesting predatory way in. Okay? So this is one of the interesting video. Okay. What else can be done from our own publication? So of course, in my class, okay, we do generate students with remembering the what are the benefits of it. So what are the political goals of it? Everything is unit based and lecture based. So when we do the lecture based, it's so boring. We only deliver the theory, but we need to know what kind of activities then we come up with a lot of activities. Then we wanted to see how that that we collect the local way of thinking. So some of these are all made by students. So these are the things that this kind of interactive learning and also delivering to other people in book form. Things. People get to read, and they can try how they are. Okay, some nice delicacies like local delicacies. So mushrooms in Sabah and even in Sarawak, there are also plenty of them. They cook with the payau, I mean ear meat, also some of the ginger leaves and flowers and stuff like that. So they only cook this during their any of the festival time. So it's kind of lucky that we can get to know their culture and also the local dishes to be, be tried out. And for me, I think it's a lot of knowledge involved here, where the delivery of mushroom food, okay, it's a kind of it's like a kind of ethno-mycological information that we have with them. So one of my students did a master's in all these interviews, and based on interviews, we found out that the Dursun communities have the higher usage of mushrooms in daily meal. Okay. So apart from all the edible groups, all the the wonders of colorful mushrooms, there are another groups of mushrooms that we can say that they are the decomposers. Without them, there's no forest. Okay, and also they are good producers of enzymes, where enzymes is a big industry. Okay, it's a big industry where a lot of investment in the enzymes are production. And these enzymes are mainly produced by fungi. And what about in our Malaysian mushrooms? Like, are they potential? Are they, are they identified? Are they being described? Are they being educated for many people? No. Okay, so those are the things that we are going to look into it, and they are the hidden jewels actually. So when you talk about polypores, okay, the wood decaying fungi, or sometimes they call the bracket fungi. Okay, so the bracket fungi, you might have seen the bracket fungi in general, what is inside them, but actually you have to look into the stereoscope. It's a kind of a stereoscope, which is a microscope. You can view all of the beautiful hive type kind of things. As you can see, these are like honeybee kind of things, and some are spores, and then some are very big hive kind of things, and some are hairy kind of things. So they are colorful. Okay, so these are the corticoid and polypores that I also work with, and these are the things that how to apply this knowledge to kind of a very interesting way to tell students, children's, what do they, give us to the, in the ecosystem. And sometimes the cultures are very important as well. So these are the cultures deposition in ITBC, and everything in the mycology lab that whatever the trip that we do, expeditions, we try to save some of the cultures, because the cultures are so important for further studies on the enzyme properties or medicinal properties, any of those. Okay, and even a lot of people now they're doing biofabrication, leather making, and things like that. So it's a huge potential because they are based on enzymes production. These are the things that you can make wonders, okay, out of it. Okay? And sometimes you can see there are a lot of groups that still for Malaysia is undescribed. And of course, we cannot do all by one person, right? So that's why I say, as a mycologist, we are educating the children, students, undergraduate or postgraduate. So we're creating an environment where we can educate them, where the niche species of the kind of thing that they can work on and make as a career path in the future. So some of these are like my students, the drawings and stuff. So colors, definitely children loves it. And these are the samples that we already have tried with many children around Sabah. And not only the children's, but including the forest rangers. Yes, forest rangers, they easily can ID now what are the type of colors, what are the shape of the coral mushrooms, things like that. So this is a very huge successful for us, because sometimes when they communicate with us with the fungus photo and everything, so they are they are 90% accurate. So sometimes definitely they look alike, so they can get confused. But the majority, the basic characters, they can identify very easily. So this is one of the way of how we educated, and we are getting the input from all these ranges amazing because they get to know what are the groups of mushrooms. It's already enough for them because you know why? They have the knowledge, the sustained knowledge that we are already given for a few times in the environmental education programs. And another group that fascinating to me is actually the bioluminescent mushrooms of Sabah. Okay, and actually this group was studied by our local mycologist, Dr. Shin, as well, for her PhD under the supervision of Prof. Dennis. Actually, they are the pioneer for working on the peninsular groups on bioluminescence. They have found quite a number of species, new species, and described quite a number of. But in Borneo, we haven't found any kind of studies so far. All this one, they only spotted by hikers, very general people they have spotted and then they upload it to Facebook. But when we categorize the species, okay, we do have like different types of species available in Borneo. As you can see from here, the glowing and the wood is fascinating. And sometimes the glow only on the side, and sometimes the mycelium glows in the leaves and also in the wood. So when we try to culture them and then we study the intensity of each species, and you can see this increasing intensity, and this can be potential for any further studies. Like for example, as you can see, there are a lot of glowing properties over here in these visuals. Okay? As you can see, this increasing intensity, and they are not edible. No? So you have to make sure that even if you see the color and beautiful in that night, you must remember that these are not edible. Okay, so how do I educate this to a common person? Like what do they do? And what is the type of glowing mushroom that we have? And how many types that they glow? And this information, when we were doing the research, we were also collecting all the ethnomycological information. We found that there is in Dusun, the Dusun mythology, they have this, they call the Bornean. So the Bornean, actually, they say when you enter the forest, you cannot bring back this. Actually, so this was actually my friend Ziti, the person who contributed the storyline for me to to come up with the educational tool on the Adaras and the glowing mushroom, which is the Dusun tale. So this is a very interesting way of telling the mushroom facts as as part of the tale and also the scientific information. So this is one of the type of information that we have gathered. So we have created in a way, and this is also my part of a class project that we have educated from our undergraduates, and then they have contributed, and the prototype was developed based on that. Okay. And as you can see, the scientific facts of the information, these are the simple information that we can give for the kids and the children, or the parents, even the teachers, they can use this kind of information to, to enhance the, the knowledge of this group of mushroom for the kids and the children. Okay. Then the next one, as you all know, when you have an edible group, you must know that you have also poisonous, definitely. But you cannot differentiate whether it's edible or poisonous. That's for sure, because all looks the same, all looks similarity, all looks like the edible groups. And somehow the theory wise, they're telling that when there is a ants or anything that you can eat the mushroom. No, okay, don't do that. Okay, because it's not applies to all the mushrooms. Because when there's an ants or anything, okay, termites, of course they eat the kills and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean guarantee that you can eat those mushrooms. Huh? Okay, so always consult with the mycologist around so that you don't get any mushroom poisoning, because recently in Malaysia, we're having a lot of cases on poisoning mushroom. It's a particular group of mushroom in Peninsula, but diverse cases in South, okay? And also in South, according to another mycologist in Sabah, Dr. Hassan. So you see, Sabah has recorded 134 cases so far. So, but the thing is, when you do look into it globally, the identified cases based on the number of cases you can see, the number of big circle is a lot of papers on that particular region. And for the Bornean part, we have not having any much info on these things. So because sometimes you get the same issue, sometimes we get different. So we have to document all this. So these are the type of knowledge that we are deriving for ourselves, educating people what are the dangers about this type of things. So as you can see here, these are the top 10 mushrooms causing mycetismus in temperate region. But what about Borneo or but what about Malaysia? So this is the form of educating people needed in our country as well. So for that purpose, we all mycologists can work together with other entities as well to deliver. Like for example, like the Mushroom Research Unit, and also UMS and also UNIMAS. We have combined together to work under the mushroom UMCare for the medical related mushrooms poisoning. So these are the one way of two way and the three way of way to get all this information and compile them, and then we produce these awareness for people in the public. And you see, out of these temperate mushrooms, okay, we do have these cornerstone. Okay, this is a very lethal type of mushroom. So next time when you see, please don't touch it and please don't eat it. Okay, and this mushroom, the fly agaric, we call the Amanita muscarium, it's not available in Malaysia, but there are other allied members of this group still available in Malaysia. For example, this kind of color. Okay, they are pretty light yellow. Okay, but we do have Pelurosibella because they look like exactly oyster. So we do not want them to be eaten because it requires a lot of recovery because Pelurosibella is quite highly toxic. Okay, so be careful when you see a mushroom. Make sure you consult with the mycologist because don't take for granted and then you just consume it. So how we are educating? So then I was collaborating with the UM, where we wanted to give education awareness on the mushroom poisoning. So these are the type of top mushrooms that have been reported in Sabah so far. So, and the education wise, we have to introduce to the kids as well. So what we do the program under the institute, and we gather all the mycologists and the medical officers together with our UM counterpart, where the UM camp, and also Sabah Parks, and also we did a lot of environmental education and also staff training of all the forest rangers for under the Jaya. So all these state governments entities were part of this as well, and they were encouraging us to work with us and them, and we had a very massive good data to educate public. Okay, so this is the kind of collaborative work that we have been doing for the past 10 years. And sometimes this type of templates that we using for the course or things, of course, it becomes a very important topic among the medical officers. So this was a successful program where we not only educate children, we also educate the young medical doctors who are facing food poisoning cases in the hospital, part of the trauma. So these are the things that we have done for Sabah so far, and also UMS is a very very special because they have a mushroom niche. It's one of the okay. So it's good to know that we can still work a lot of things in the mushroom aspect. And then the last one I would like to talk about is zombie fungi. Okay, what is a zombie fungi? It's a very interesting interaction between the fungus and the insect. Okay, when you call about entomo, it's insects. The pathogenic is capable of causing disease. So why is it zombie fungi? These are the groups that we are working with my PhD student, where this fungus is a unique fungus, where this research has been done in many, many years. But in Borneo, we have only one paper on Tarikh. So that means there's a huge gap looking into the system on this entomopathy. So this is one of the chances that we want to educate the children as well. What is a zombie fungi? So even in the education program that we conducted for school children, zombie fungi is a highlight because they are so fascinated how the fungus can kill the ants or any other polyptera or any other insects. So that the interaction between the fungus and the insects becoming more understandable for children when we know that it's a parasitic fungus that kills the host, something like that. Okay, so it's one of the way of how we educate them, and the response is like totally higher than other types of fungus. Okay, and then of course the zombie apocalypse. Usually when you look into the zombie movies and things like that, the another human, the infected ones will eat them. But in this case, the entomopathogenic fungi, which is the zombie fungi group, they have diverse hosts. Okay, sometimes in ants, sometimes in moths, sometimes in cicada, sometimes in spider. They have so many hosts, but there are different species of groups of entomopathogenic fungi that we have found. So all of these is from our collections from Sabah alone. So these are the groups that our lab is working towards it. And this can be also a lot of potential for biocontrol agents and stuff like that in agricultural applications and pest control. But the thing is, the basic fundamental of this knowledge on the zombie fungi in Borneo is still lacking. So we are collecting more data for us to educate people like people. If they spot, okay, they can bring your lab on ID and stuff like that. Okay, so those are the things that we are doing for even when all the ranges collect for us. It's so amazing that they can. That's why many eyes can detect so many different groups of fungus. Okay, so it's a very good system for us to be proud, because in Thailand they have a big museum for this zombie fungi group because they are hyper diverse environment for this group. But in Malaysia, we still haven't documented so much of sampling done in Malaysia, the whole region. So Sabah, we have started. One of my PhD students, she's working on towards it. So hopefully we get more interesting story on this system. So as part of the public outreach, okay, the conservation awareness for kids and the children, school children, primary and secondary, both are present in every year. So this is an effort that we did with Sabah Parks, where IBTP, we lead this from 2017, 2018, and 2019. After that, COVID attacked. So we all stopped this for a while. So it was a very big event for all the mushroom festival, like a kind of a mushroom cooking and stuff like that. And then the students are exposed to hands-on training where they get all this information, mushrooms information from us, and they will deliver in a presentation form, arts form, even in a, so everybody, they are very creative. So the creativity is like, for this particular programs are amazing. We are lucky that, the program was successful based on teacher support, parent support, when they send the kids to, station. So they enjoyed all the field trips for the 3 days. And then from the students itself, okay, the kids and the children are in the awareness program and everything. So we come up with lots of models and educational creativity kind of artwork, models, visualize videos and things. We started to create quite a number of output that you can already see from them. So the environmental education, the community activities not only stops there, so it's like extends. I learned all these from, the forest country, like, the foreign country where the mushroom foray is a big thing. But in Malaysia, we should have this kind of activity on national scale so that we can have a very good modules to train a generation, young generation, especially like camp campaign and stuff like that. So after the COVID. Huh? And not only that, when you outreach, like, really rural areas, like, there is no electricity kind of thing, and power system, like, the springs and everything. So when we go here, okay, I do like to gather these children's for, to have the response. They are my commenter because they will tell me this mushroom not nice, this mushroom is beautiful. So these are the responses that I gather from these judges, the little judges, because they get to know all these colors, various shapes, and the forms and everything. So not only them, and also its ranges. Among the ranges, they are now, I mean, expert, yeah, in a certain group. So it's a very successful program. Educational tools that we created, it reaches them very clearly. So that is something that is very important aspect for our study. And not only that, a lot of refreshment using a lot of mushroom. Pot is the famous things in Sabah where, for any visitors coming from Peninsula or Sarawak, yes, this one you have to try. And the students' exposure on the hands-on in the jungle, the activities that we created for them, yes, make sure that they when they leave, they know at least one or two fungus names out of it. Okay, like for example, zombie fungi among the famous one because they know that the zombie fungi is so cool system, how the zombie can kill the host. And these are the things that, in my classroom and also outside my classroom, where we use biology as a tool. And especially for microbial world, yes, definitely it will involve more detail to educate them. So those are the things that we have to design, and we have to make sure that the interaction has to be from the student to teachers, like, very highly positive, because sometimes students don't talk that much, but we have to make them interact. So this is one of the way that we try to mushroom studies in some. Not only that, among the students, we also creating all the campus mushroom days, that kind of thing. So it's a kind of contributors are all from the classroom. So this the classroom and then to the that's how we are sustaining all these information, continuously updating, and this has been started for the past 5 years, and this is the 6th year. But of course, after COVID, I hope we can actually get out to experience more field works. Okay. Okay, so that's all about my talk today. Okay, so I always end my talk with our, the theme is, which is if we given the opportunity, we create the community. So that's all for today. And then I hope all of you at least benefited the talk and the points that I was telling, and make sure that all these information that can be spread out, and science is for all. And I hope that our next generation ecologists can be, can be created, and more mycological researchers should be, done in. And these are all my collaborators and networking, and we benefited from each others. And these are the things that we have to thank all of them for wonderful efforts and support. And the lab is growing, and then these are all the future mycologists. If they retain in the mycology field. So some of them have graduated, some of them still working on their PhD and master. So it will be a great team to see all these when they are out as a mycologist. Okay, so that's all for today. And thank you to all of you for listening for such a long time, I guess. How many hours? Okay, so if any questions, you may contact me via email. Okay, and also if those teachers or parents who wants to collaborate to know more about mushrooms and how you all want to, module, create a module for the kids and children, yes, you may collaborate with us. Okay, and UMS is always warmly welcomes you, okay, for any collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Jaya. It was indeed a very interesting and wonderful topic. So I'm sure that all of our participants have at least learned some unique knowledge today. So we have some questions from the participants. So we move on to the first question. We will try our best to answer all of your questions. So the first question from Pranita. Why such intraspecies diversity in Borneo? Why are there such, yeah.
Why such diverse species is it? Okay. I mean, the diverse species is probably based on the soil, okay, the habitat type, and the forest type that harbors millions of trees, the dictyocarp trees, because some of these colorful mycorrhizals are all arising from those, not only Dipterocarpus, there's Paga, Cepa, Castanopsis, a lot of different variety of trees. So when they all, living trees, they produce ectomycorrhiza. But when they die, the logs and everything, they have other types of secondary colonizers. So quite remarkable diversity that have in the tropics. Actually. So it's hyper diverse, I would say. I hope I have answered.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So there are 4 questions from Justin Leong. Okay, quite a number of questions. And the first one is, when is the best time to consume mushroom during our mealtime?
Pardon? Mealtime.
When is the best time to eat mushroom? Is there a
there is no specific time, Justin.
Okay.
You can eat the edible ones, which is the commercial ones, anytime if you want, no problem.
And then, is it a good idea to soak mushroom in warm water before we cook them?
Actually, you must cook them, okay, just to avoid. It's just not you just wash them. You must cook the mushroom in the heat. Okay, at least after you wash, please cook. You have to cook the mushroom because we do not know any of these mushrooms unless it's a really it's from the market, supermarket, okay, commercial ones. Then okay, but certain time there are other reports like dermatitis kind of infection due to the rashes to the individual. So if you eat without like cooking and things like that, it may arise, but not for all, but certain individuals get different reactions.
So the third question, can the soaked mushroom be left in the fridge and be used for cooking in the following days? Will the nutrition of the mushrooms be affected overnight?
That one I'm not sure with the nutritional because we must compare the nutritional thing with the nutritionist, I guess. But definitely, it wouldn't change that much. It's my opinion, because let's say if you're getting the commercial mushroom, you're keeping it in the fridge. Okay, it shouldn't be changes that much because mushroom itself contains the nutrients. So I'm not sure with the donation, but definitely it should be there. It should have the same amount of nutrients there.
Thank you, Doctor. So the next question from Azman. Apakah ada perbezaan antara cendawan yang selamat dan tidak selamat dimakan? Main difference?
Yeah, I get those questions very often. Okay, that means edible mushroom dengan poisonous mushroom. Okay, the cendawan yang selamat atau tidak program selamat itu kita tidak boleh tahu. Sebab apa? Dia punya karakteristik tu, definite karakteristik tu susah bagi common people. So that means you need to know at least further knowledge on that mushroom. Because you see, cendawan tahun dengan chlorophyllum dia hampir sama dia punya sistem dia. Tapi ada perbezaan. Tapi orang masa fresh itu dia lain jenis itu. Sama, hampir sama dengan cendawan tahun. So a lot of people in Peninsula they tend to eat those lah. Tapi bagi saya cendawan tahun paling utama dia punya karakteristik adalah pseudorizate. Tangkai dia yang paling ke bawah tempat anak-anak itu. Ini termite moth. So yang chlorophyllum kalau you tarik dia memang short. So that's how one species ini bolehlah kita boleh bandingkan lah, because we have discussed with other mycologists as well, and we know that it's always constant because chlorophyllum yang jenis yang Peninsula selalu ada mushroom poisoning ini dia tak ada tangkai yang panjang. Okay, tapi yang termite mushroom tu yang tak cendawan tahun tu dia ada tangkai yang paling panjang. So that is one definite character yang you boleh sure that this is not edible. But I always say I disclaimer because I do not want to be responsible for any mushroom poisoning. But you have to, consult with any mycologist before you.
Okay, so maybe we will answer two more questions.
Yeah.
So next question from Suganti Yogeswaran. Do climate change affect the fungi?
Yes, definitely. Because for the past 15 years, okay, we have some data that we can see several species. There are some drastic changes, and even it's agreed by other mycologists around the world, where climate change, the environmental temperature increases and everything. Yes, it is affecting the global distribution of the mushroom as well. Because certain groups, very specific groups of mushrooms, yes, definitely there are kind of due to the higher temperature, they're not, reproducing. So there are some papers that you can refer to.
Okay, so one last question from the floor from Li Min Pei. Should anyone with particular health issue avoid consuming mushrooms?
Particular issue mean in terms of if you have like lots of rashes kind of thing, like sensitive to hygiene or anything, you better not to consume. But the thing is, when you eat mushroom, the edible ones, you definitely get the reaction after a few hours. So if you really feel like itchy and stuff like that, immediately go and see the doctor, because it happens for certain individuals. But like let's say the most commonly like the kulat sisir or kulat kodok, it was very common in Sabah as well. Very common, and people eat that very frequently in any
Favorite food.
Yeah, favorite food. Dengan bubur, dia orang guna ni. But there is a one case where the individual he cannot because he got so much of rashes. So that is one case out of many. So that's why I say it's depend. But if it's really poisonous, definitely you will end up in hospital because you will get to. They will call me and also they will tell me that, Dr. Jaya, there's a sample for you because there's a mushroom poisoning case. That's how I know. And when I check the mushroom, then I get to know that it's a poisonous one. But in Sabah, they have so many variation and varieties of species. So that's why in each district they have different group of mushroom that they consume and then end up in hospital. So that's why we have to be constantly documenting all these information for a better management of all these edible and poisonous mushroom.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So that's all for the Q&A session. So we hope you all enjoyed this amazing and interesting presentation by Dr. Jaya today. So the link for registration and e-certificate is now being shared for school students and UMS students. Please fill in your details and answer the simple feedback questionnaire. All students will receive e-cert and SDP points for UMS students. So many thanks to all the audience today for your active participation. We look forward to seeing you in the next STEM speaker series. And it was a pleasure to have all of you with us. With this, we conclude the webinar. Thank you and see you again.